You're listening to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast brought to you by Nottinghamshire Live. Hello, welcome to a special episode of Garibaldi Red. My name is Matt Davies, hosting it as usual, and we're joined today by Forest Women manager Andy Cook to talk about how that team's getting on and also look ahead to their big East Midlands derby match against Derby County at the weekend. Andy, are you well?
Very well, yeah, very good, thank you, especially after the win against Fylde at the weekend. So yeah, delighted.
Yeah, I mean, start off, just tell us a bit about the team. Obviously, you're having a good season, but tell us about, where you're at and what level you're playing at and how it's all going in general.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, the women's team here at Nottingham Forest, we play in Tier 3. So what is the equivalent, I suppose, in men's football of probably League 1, League 2. And because we're split into a north-south, it's probably easy to make the jump to kind of saying it's sort of the same as a Vanarama, really. But yeah, with a third tier, and yeah, it's a really good level. I mean, we've signed several players this summer that have come from the Championship and the WSL. And so the quality is getting better and better, the third and fourth tier in the women's game. And the hope of the club and the ambition of the club is to get into the Championship. We were unsuccessful with our application last season due to the league's curtailment and null and void the year before because of the pandemic. We could apply to go up, but the FA and the leagues decided to go a different way than what was Sunderland from our league. And to be fair, Sunderland were top of the league, so probably if you're looking at it performance-wise, they probably deserve to go. But we felt we've got a good, strong infrastructure here at the club, fully supportive of everything that we're doing here, and yeah, we felt like we were in a good position. So yeah, the third tier of the women's football pyramid, and yeah, we're really looking to push on and hopefully get into the Championship in the next year or two.
How's women's football evolving at your level then? Because obviously, I turn on Sky Sports and the WSL's on at the moment, which is great, and I listen to football podcasts and there's features on how the top level of the women's game's going. Is it evolving nicely at the third tier that you're playing at the moment?
Yeah, like I just said, I mean, one of the biggest sort of differences that I'm seeing and the kind of we're all seeing in the league is, we've been able to bring in sort of, a couple of players just from the Championship of WSL. So we've brought in Amy West, who was playing professionally for Aston Villa last season. She's had a few circumstances change. Obviously, Aston Villa have changed manager, so therefore players have moved on, and she's had to look for sort of other work, which has helped us out because we're an amateur team still. The players all have their own jobs or they're at university and stuff. So Amy's now working again full time, but that allows us still to play at our level. And so we can recruit players that were playing in the Super League last season, and she can come and play for us and really enjoy football. And then other players such as sort of Becky Anderson that we brought in was semi-professional at Coventry United last season. And again, same thing, her work, sort of work-life balance and everything else has to fit around her. A football has to fit around that. And playing for Nottingham Forest sort of helps that out. So, we're seeing the benefits of teams at the higher level going professionally purely because the salaries don't necessarily match, being able to maybe leave their full-time jobs. We've got, you've got players that we've got a couple of players that are on law degrees. So, once they finish their degree, they're going to be looking at pretty decent salaries, you would think. So therefore, the full-time salaries in women's football is nowhere near the men's right now. And so, teams at our level in Tier 2, Tier 3 are benefiting from that. But I just think it's getting stronger and stronger. And obviously the fact that Sky Sports now are putting on the Super League games every weekend, it's just that representation that I think will eventually filter down to our level. But in a year or two, we hope to be there anyway. So yeah, we'll reap the rewards when we get there.
I started my career covering non-league football, and they train Tuesday, Thursday. I'm guessing, are you something similar? And what kind of challenges does that present to you and the players?
Yeah, exactly the same. And that's what I'm saying about if you as for someone that probably doesn't know about the women's game, if you just think about that in terms of men's football, that's exactly what it's like. It's like a non-league men's setup in a way. But we're representing the full-time football club, really. So I'm full-time. So my schedule is in the City Ground, during the week, Monday to Friday, and then obviously we play on a Sunday. So we train Monday nights 8 till 10. Tuesday nights 8 till 10, and Thursday nights 8 till 10, and then we have a gym session over at Nottingham Trent University to use their their high performance gym. So we're in 3 times a week, and then we're playing. And the challenges that brings about is obviously I'm full time, which helps because I can help with everything off the field in terms of the infrastructure of probably an old school manager, as it is, not just a head coach. You're looking at things and the day-to-day running of the commercial, the marketing, and all the kind of things that go around a football club. But if I'm trying to contact a player that's working, we've got a couple of people doing different jobs, as I've mentioned before, that I might try and ring them up at 2:00 and they're in a meeting, or they're seeing a patient if we've got a couple of people that work in hospitals or whatever it might be, and so they'll text me back and say, Andy, I'm just on a break, I need to ring you at 5. So the challenges that I've got is that I've got to manage my the staff that work alongside me, and obviously all the players as well, that they've got their own schedules to work around, plus we want them to play and represent Nottingham Forest and make sure that we do the best we can on a weekend. So it's a tough juggling act, but I'd rather it's one of those. There's not much else I'd rather be doing. It's a brilliant job. I've worked in different places around the country, but working for Nottingham Forest is genuinely it's the best club I've worked for in regards to the promotion and the support that I've had as a head coach of the women's team.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned you're full time, so obviously there must be strong support from the football club as a whole. So what's that relationship like? Because obviously you're not going to get the same budget as the men's team, but are they're fully supportive, are they, from the top?
Yeah, it's all relative, isn't it? It's all relative. The men's side are trying to push to get into the Premier League, and we're trying to push to get into the Championship. And it's the budget is the budget matches where we are. The support is fantastic. The new CEO and everyone that's come in has been as just supportive as the guys that were in previously. And I think one of the biggest, I've said this on a few different things, one of the biggest positives I can say is the first day that I was here, I signed my contract and came into the club, and I met the CEO at the time and the chairman. And we had a sit-down conversation with the general manager, Lee, who's now at Aston Villa. The 4 of us were in a room chatting about what we need to do to make Nottingham Forest Women successful. And I've never experienced that before. The top people in a football club asking me what our thoughts were on the team. So, that speaks volumes for the football club, and they've been so supportive and continue to do so. And obviously a sign of that is the game coming up next weekend against Derby as well.
I think I'm right in saying, from looking you up, you've worked in women's football for a long time. We've had people on this podcast before who kind of specialise in youth football and obviously men's senior football. How come you've worked in women's football? Is that for so long? Is that just happenstance, or is it something that you always kind of wanted to do?
No, funny enough, I had this conversation over the weekend. I was at my sister-in-law's wedding, and a few guys on the table were asking me the same question. And to be honest, it's because I need to pay my bills, and ultimately, I want to work. I want to work full time in football. So working in women's football has helped me out because I've been able to get these really good roles, the full time. I'm working day in, day out with really good people, really good footballers. And like I say, when the mortgage needs paying, they don't take war stories of, I used to play back in the day. They don't take them as payment. But, the salary helps it out. And, for me, I'm a football coach, whether it be men, whether it be women, whether it be boys or girls. I've worked with every sort of age group and every kind of, different aspect of the game. I've worked non-league men's football back home in the northeast. I've worked with Sunderland Boys Academy with the under 15s and 14s back there. When Darlington were back in the Football League, I worked in the academy with the boys side there. But then obviously a lot of my roles have been within the women's game: Arsenal, Durham, Oxford United, and obviously here at Nottingham Forest have been in the women's game. So it's wide and varied, but for me, I'm a football coach first and foremost, and it doesn't matter whether it's a male player or a female player. At the end of the day, they're just people. You've got to manage people, you've got to coach them, you've got to try and get them on board and make sure that they're doing the job properly, because ultimately, if they don't like you and they don't like what's happening, they'll find a way to balls it up for you, and ultimately, that's not what we want. So, it's got nothing to do with why women's football or why men's football. It's like everyone in life. We've got to try and pay our bills at the end of the day. And, for me, I enjoy football. And, anyone that has been around myself and been around any of the Forest squad at the moment, you can see and you know how good the players are and how good the people are. That it's a fantastic role to have. You meet some great people, and you can't complain really. If there was a situation where I was involved and a role came up in my past that would have been in a men's game, I've applied for those roles and I've tried to get those roles, but I've just been unsuccessful. And this role here at Nottingham Forest came up, and to be honest, I'm absolutely delighted that I'm here because it is a fantastic football club, and I hope to be here for as long as possible because it is a fantastic club to work for.
What makes a successful coach in the women's game? Because obviously Phil Neville was the most high-profile name to go into women's football, I guess. And I don't know how well it worked. I'm not sure, but you listen to things and it just sounds like maybe it didn't work as well as it might have. And then you hear people talking about coaching is about communication more first and foremost, more than anything. So is there differences between the women's game and what you've seen in academies, or does it all just come down to basically being a good coach no matter who you're working with?
I believe so. I believe everything in life is down to people. You've got to want to work for the person that's leading you. And, I'm fortunate that the person I work for here at the football club, for me, David Cook is the best manager that I've worked for. And no doubt I'll probably get grief for that from everyone in the office for saying it. But yeah, he's fantastic. And you want to do as best you can for that person. And I hope that the players at Nottingham Forest do the same for myself. And that wouldn't matter. That wouldn't change whether it's men's, women's, boys or girls. You've got to like the person you're working for, and you've got to have that feeling that they're leading you in the right way and that they're doing the right thing for you and for the football club. And yeah, I understand what you're saying about maybe certain things with Phil Neville. He set his stall out early and said that they wanted to win the Euros and win the World Cup when he was England women's manager in terms of the profile he had. And it obviously didn't go that way, but football and sport is itself. It's you're coming up against an opposition, and we can say everything that we want. The opposition are always going to have a say of it. They're always going to try and make it as hard as possible, and ultimately, you've just got to find the right way to work with the people that you're working with. I hope that if we had any of the players on now, they'd say, we like Andy and we'll do what he says because we believe he's the right man for the job. So it's for me, it's all down to people. It doesn't matter whether it's, like I say, men's, women's. It's people. You've got to deal with people and you've got to manage them. And I don't like the word manage. You've just got to speak to people. You've got to get them on side and make sure that you're doing the right thing for people. And hopefully if you do that, you get some success along the way.
Let's talk about this season then for Forest. I think I'm right in saying you're second in the league and you've won 4 out of 6. So you're obviously going well. Is it a league where there's like the Championship, there's 4, 5, 15 teams that think they can do well? What kind of challenge is it?
So it is very much like the Championship. Again, for those that don't know, it's a league where anyone could beat anyone, as cliched as it is. But the top 4, top 5 teams, there's always that opportunity and there's always that chance that they're going to drop points, even if they play against one of the sides that might be down the bottom of I think this season Sheffield FC haven't started too well and Hull City haven't had great starts. But when we've played them this season, I mean, we said it after, I think we beat Sheffield FC 3-1, and after the game we spoke and as staff we were saying that they'll take points off teams, because the way that they played in that game, they showed really great fight, great determination. They just didn't have that little bit of quality on the day they played us, but that's going to change. That's going to change throughout the season, and it is exactly that. On the other side of that, when we played Files at the weekend, they hadn't lost a game since October, so we've come into that game with a game plan of trying to frustrate them and trying to make sure it's as hard as possible. We managed to get the goal, which was a great move from us. And then after that, they've I wouldn't say fell apart because it was a really tough game, but it's those fine margins, and it's the same. It's the same across the board. That when you're playing the top 2, 3, 4, 5 teams, one goal's probably going to win it or lose it. And it's going to be nip and tuck here and there. Whereas, the games against the other side, that's the ones where you need to really be, on your boil and concentrating on your jobs, because you've got to be consistent in your behaviours and consistent in your standards. Because if you're not, that complacency can lead to an upset.
You've got on Sunday then what I imagine is your biggest game of the season, or the one that all your players will look forward to first on the fixture list, against Derby County. Is it viewed in your camp the same way as I guess it is by the fans and the players in the men's team?
Yeah, we've got several players that play for us that are Nottingham Forest fans, and they let everybody know straight away, when we play that lot, this is what we're doing. This is how it is, and it is that whenever we're playing that lot up the road, that everyone knows that this is the game we're looking out for, and we've played them 3 times in my time here at Nottingham. We've always done well. So to be able to play the game here at the City Ground, I'm looking out now at the Peter Taylor stand there, and yeah, it's going to be fantastic on Sunday, being able to, rock up here I'll be here about 10, 11 o'clock getting things set up and stuff. But when the players arrive into the changing rooms, out onto that pitch, and walking out onto the stadium, and just looking up at the Brian Clough stand and everything else, it'll be a fantastic occasion. But yeah, we've got several players that let everyone know. Lindsay Harkin, the captain, Nottingham Forest fan through and through, her family are big Forest fans. I believe her husband's have been season ticket holder for many years and stuff. And yeah, again, like I say, the players, they let all the new ones know that have come into the club that this is the big one. We don't want to let that lot up the road get anything over us.
I saw at the start of the season, Arsenal played, I think it was Chelsea or Man City, wasn't it, at the Emirates, and it wasn't full, but there was a really good atmosphere. So what difference does it make being at the City Ground? Because I assume you're going to get a pretty decent crowd in, hopefully.
Yeah. I think the last the total I've been given at the moment, obviously what we're on Tuesday morning, is I believe it's about 3,500 tickets have been sold. So I believe it's the Lower Brian Clough that's going to be open, and that atmosphere that can be created is fantastic. I think the other side of it is, look, it'd be great to get 20, 25,000, wouldn't it? But we're realistic. We're potentially not going to get that. It'd be fantastic if everyone could get down and support us, though. So if you do want to, it's £5 a ticket, and it'll be brilliant to see it. Although we'll probably have to get a few more stewards on. But just to play at the City Ground, it's fantastic to be on the pitch, to go through the same processes that the guys do. And we play on a 3G pitch. We play at Eastwood Town, and that's where our home games are currently. And just to play on the grass, it's the pitch at the moment, the start of the season, when I've been to the games here, the pitch looks superb, and we can't wait to get on it. We can't wait to play on it, and try and get that ball down and play some really good, attractive football that we're capable of and that we can do. So the atmosphere itself will be great. The players will create an atmosphere as well, because the group that we have and the excitement that they've got looking forward to the game is going to be good. But yeah, just to have those, that few thousand in the stadium will be fantastic, and it's a slightly different sort of atmosphere, I suppose, compared to a men's game. But you're going to get that when the stadium's only kind of a quarter full. But it's still, you can still hear it, you can still feel it, and they're the little moments that we're looking for ultimately. And again, you're kind of looking and hoping that if it goes well this weekend, not necessarily on the pitch, obviously we want it to go well, but off the pitch, if everything can run smoothly and everything goes well, that we'll definitely be back here. And another club again want to do it more often. They want to try and get things going and moving and get as many games as we can here. And it's just one of those things where, look, we're just over the moon to be able to play on the pitch and to be able to get crowds into the City Ground, and to be able to play Derby here is fantastic because of that the East Midlands Derby, the fixture, the sort of nostalgia that comes from playing them. It'll be fantastic. It should be a fantastic day.
How much do the players enjoy and take responsibility for that kind of community aspect and growing the women's game? Is that something that they embrace?
Yeah. The subtle differences. I mean, I've spoken about already that the girls are a lot of them working full time in universities, colleges, and things like that. And a couple of the players are at university here at Nottingham Trent, and they actually have part-time jobs here within the club. And those little links that they build, and then not just that, the little stuff that they have on social media, it's huge in the women's game. The players are kind of almost at the coal face every day of the week, trying to promote themselves, promote the game, and trying to get people to get to Eastwood, or this weekend to get to the City Ground. And the girls are fantastic at it. And yeah, there's no words to describe them really. They're just brilliant at trying to promote the game themselves. And again, it's one of those, the top end, you're getting Sky Sports involved, and hopefully that then filters down, over time, if we can get promoted this season or next, we'll be in the Championship and we'll get a slice of that pie. But I think it's filtering down in other ways. But yeah, the players are at the coalface currently of trying to do that. And it's still in its infancy, really. The women's game, as much as everyone wants to try and say, well, let's get it equal and let's get this, let's get that, it's still in its infancy. The WSL as it is only been around for 10 years or around about 10 years. So the top league's only been here sort of semi-professionally and professionally for 10 years. So we're well away from where sort of, if you like, the men's game is. But I think that's where, people have got to look at it and think, well, it's the same game, but it's a slightly different way of looking at it. We can't look at it as, well, it's football, so let's treat it the same. It hasn't been around long enough to have that. I think I seen a tweet or I can't remember what it was the other day. It was what would the men's game do if it was banned for 50 years and there was no television coverage of it and nobody played the game for 50 years? How would the men's game recover? I think that was a bit far, but I understand the point. And it's little things like that you've got to take into context. And for me, that's one of the biggest things. Is everything's context. I said, you mentioned earlier our budgets and stuff. It's all context. We're trying to get in the Women's Championship, which is a smaller budgeted league. We're not trying to get into the Premier League. We won't need £120 million or whatever it is to bring a few people in. We don't need that. We need the budget that's in context of where we are. So it's, I think that's something to probably live by in life as well. Just remain in context and, make sure you're doing your job.
What's the evolution of the game been like when you've been involved then, in terms of facilities and respect and everything? I imagine you might have seen some horror shows early in your career of what kind of facilities you're turning up at on a Saturday afternoon.
Again, when you mentioned you started off covering non-league men's football, that's all I need to say to you. We're rocking up at some grounds and some stadiums where, you're going in and basic stuff that maybe, and I'm going to speak really truthfully as a male, maybe I wouldn't think about it, but you're rocking up to changing rooms and there's no, sanitary bins. There's things like that as a bloke going into a bloke's changing room, you never think of that. But as a woman going into a male changing room, because you're going into a men's non-league facility, those sorts of things are, the basics, but sometimes they're not there. And just things like that. But that's changing. Everywhere you're going now, it's changing and it's good and it's promoting. It's progressing things on. But yeah, it's just natural, isn't it? It was natural, like I said, 10 years ago when you're involved in things, you're rocking up to some places, and yeah, it's you might as well be playing on a local park behind a pub sometimes. But it's completely different. Like I said, that was kind of 10 years ago now, and yeah, the Arsenal, Tottenham playing at Tottenham Stadium, and then ourselves this weekend playing at the City Ground. It's progressing, it's moving on, and for me, one of the biggest things that I've said, and I've said it in different places, it's got to be slow. It's got to be slow. Whenever anything's done fast and it's speeded up, right, we've got to do that yesterday. It doesn't necessarily work. Slow progress is better. Just one small step every single day, keep moving forward day by day, and eventually over the years, in another 10 years' time, we could be sat here and we're playing at the City Ground every single week, or women's football teams up and down the country are playing at the men's stadiums, and it works in conjunction. And it's just slow progress. That's what you've got to do, and you've got to look for. And like I say, you've got to just maintain those standards and consistency. Obviously,
I see Derby. They must be a good side. They're doing quite well, but their club as a whole is in crisis. And I was reading how the women's team might lose funding as part of the administration process. Do you think that has any impact on the game on Sunday, or will their players put it to the back of their mind, do you think?
If anything, they'll probably use it for motivation, won't they? I think that's my worry as the opposition head coach. You're looking at it and going, if I was in that situation, how would I react? Well, I'd react by trying to galvanise the players and kind of making a siege mentality of the world and the country doesn't like us because of stuff that's gone on with people that are around the football club. So if I'm their head coach, I'm looking at it and going, well, it's us against the world kind of thing. So that's how I'd be using it if I was in their camp. So I personally think it won't matter. It won't come into their thinking. It won't come into their mindset. They'll come and they'll play the game and they'll try their utmost to beat us on the day. It's a situation I wouldn't like to be in. We've talked about in the office a few times. I think it's the blokes. I think, I don't mean this to sound as it's going to sound, but I think the blokes will be all right. They get paid a few pound. They'll probably be okay. It's some parts of the football club. It's the people that work in the back office. It's maybe it's the women's side. If the funding does have to get sort of, I don't want to say anything that I don't know, but if the funding has to get changed or if whatever, I don't know how it works as well. I don't know what the funding is or if it is or isn't. I don't know, but all those kinds of things, they're the things that you don't like to hear. And whether it be Derby or whether it be another football club in the country, it's something you never like to hear, because you see the work that the people that work in those places, in the offices, in the places like that they go through, and they've got to find ways of paying their mortgage at the end of the month, and it's just not a great place to be. So I do have my sympathies with them for that. But come Sunday, I can guarantee you that Derby, they won't be worried about that. They'll be thinking about how to win that football match, because it brings a smile to everyone's faces and gets the morale high. Whereas we'll be doing exactly the same thing, because they're not going to come to the City Ground and get away with an easy win.
Just give us a shameless plug to finish then. It's Sunday at 2:00 at the City Ground, and people turn up on the day, that's right?
Yeah, Sunday the 3rd of October. Turn up at the City Ground if you want on the day. You can, I believe, you can buy the tickets. It'll be the Brian Clough ticket office on the obviously the opposite side of the Peter Taylor stand. You'll obviously know better than me, being a Forest fans that you are. And you can rock up. £5 for an adult. I think it's kids get in for £1. So if you've got any children, your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, whoever it is, your granddaughter, your grandson, bring them down. £1 for them. And I believe that offer then, if you buy your ticket for this game, I believe that's extended for our next home game. And they'll be able to come into the next home game for £1 as well. So it'll be a great day. Hopefully the sun's shining like it is today. And it'll be a fantastic atmosphere. I know we've got all sorts going off around the ground and around the day. And hopefully we can, put on a hell of a show for you for 90 minutes, and we can come away with that victory on Sunday and keep Nottingham Forest above that lot up the road.
Andy, thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Obviously, we wish you all the very best of luck and hope lots of people get down to support you and obviously see Forest win against Derby.
Thank you for listening to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode. Thanks for listening.